France and the UK say they're ready to send weapons to Syrian rebels, even if they can't get the support of European allies. Leaders meeting in Brussels have resisted lifting an embargo that prevents EU states from providing weapons. But the French President, François Hollande, says political solutions have failed.
Right now in Syria, arms are being delivered to Bashar al-Assad's forces, namely by the Russians. We hope that Europe will lift the embargo. Already Britain and France are in favour. Now we must convince the other countries.
On Tuesday, David Cameron said he was in favour of lifting the embargo. The Syrian National Council praised the move. But both Syrian state television and Russia's foreign minister called arming the rebels a flagrant violation of international law. Analysts say the rebels are currently being armed by countries in the Middle East and through capturing Assad's weapons. But lifting the ban could change the dynamics of the war.
If the arming of the rebels was to be for a much broader, wider coalition, this would, I think, further destabilize the situation. And much more importantly, once the Assad regime fell, then those arms would then flow out in the wider Middle East, further militarizing and destabilizing the region as a whole.
The arms embargo will expire May 31st if all 27 EU states do not vote to renew it.
Of course, such support would help to shorten our way on the road to victory. We thank all the countries that support us, and we believe that victory will be on our side as soon as possible. As the second anniversary of the uprising against Assad began approaches, Syria is a humanitarian nightmare. Millions of children are damaged by the conflict, 2 million people are internally displaced, 400,000 refugees now live in neighbouring countries, and more than 70,000 people are dead.
Official Syrian state TV, the regime's mouthpiece, headlined France and Britain's plans, which are firmly opposed by Syria's allies in Russia. Western sources say that along with Iran, Moscow has increased financial and military support to the regime, which seems to believe it can win.
Of course, the Russians and the Iranians are his best allies, but couldn't keep him in power if he didn't have enough backup from his own people on the ground.
In the middle ground, frightened Syrians are caught between the rebels and the regime, appalled that no one seems able to stop the destruction of their country, their futures, and sometimes their lives.
You can tell 2 years of war will scar for generations when children here in rebel-held and regime-bombarded Aleppo even have to go to school in secret. This revolt began when children had their nails torn out by police for drawing graffiti. Now it spawns these drawings. The planes, loaves, tanks of a bakery shelled. From a girl who lost her uncle and brother to shelling she still hears in her dreams.
Syrian government forces are using inaccurate and indiscriminate weapons designed for the battlefield against civilian residential neighborhoods every day. It is incredibly frustrating precisely to see how little resonance all this is having at the international level. The international community is profoundly divided and it has failed spectacularly.
Pause and see what 2 years of killing has already done. We asked them to raise their hand if they'd lost someone to the war. My uncle, she says. My cousin, she adds.
We're right now at risk of losing a generation of Syrian children. They have seen extreme violence often happening to a family member, and they find themselves now often in foreign lands, living in open fields, living in unfinished buildings. It's a magnitude of crisis in countries like Lebanon that is very difficult to manage.